In this episode, I dive deep with quantum alignment coach and psychic Sally Reid on the topic of healing, energies, and the universe's mysteries.
But when people see ghosts, they're looking into the fourth dimension. It's the place of being here, but not here in all spaces. And there is no time and space once you leave the third dimension.
She shares about the near-death experiences that led her to enter other dimensions and realms of the universe, and teaches us in great detail about the 7 dimensions and imparts wisdom from her spirit guides. We delve into the vast tapestry of spirituality, seeking answers to life's fundamental questions and discovering how to tap into our innate power and break through any mental and physical blockages that may be in our lives.
As to when you have a feeling, and it doesn't matter what the feeling is, stop and get curious.
Sally is a renowned healer and coach whose guidance has touched the lives of many individuals through energy alterations. Listen in to learn about energy healing, spirit guides, dimensions, and so much more. Sally, thank you so much for being here with us on Multispective. I am so excited to have you here.
Hi. Sorry. My computer just went dark just for a second.
Oh, no. We can start again. Not a problem.
That was a little odd, but thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So you have a really, really interesting story. We've talked a little bit about this, and for our listeners as well, we've done an episode with a previous guest on a topic that's similar to this, but it's a different take on NDE. So we'll be diving right into it. But can you start off by just telling us a little bit about your childhood? Where are you in the world? Where were you born? Where were you raised?
Sure. Well, I was a typical American. In fact, as a child, my girlfriends and I used to play this game called Typical American Family, and all we did was act out our lives. But I was born in the Midwest in the middle of the previous century. I am a baby boomer. I mean, how typical can that be, right? That's very typical.
Exactly.
And, we had the typical Protestant family with the ballet lessons and the, you know what I mean?
Yeah. How many siblings did you have?
I have 2 elder sisters. I was the baby of 3 girls.
Okay. Must have been nice being the young one, the pampered one, given all this special love and attention.
Well, it was interesting. I was so much younger than the other 2. I was a surprise. In fact, my elder sister, who is 4.5 years older than me, told me that before I was born, my mother did not talk to my father for about, she said like a month or 2. I guess she was angry that she was pregnant, but really?
Yeah. I mean, look at what came out. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it was me. It was meant to be. All children are blessings and gifts. They are.
Right.
And so, my parents used to refer to us as the kids and then Sally.
Oh, no.
Isn't that
That's so nice.
Isn't that weird? This is so weird. The station wagon? It was always me in the way back of the station. The dreaded way back. It was always me back there. And then my 2 siblings in the seat, the back seat. I just never could figure that out.
That's so unfair.
Yeah. Well, they were only 12 months apart, so they were a group.
Right, of course.
And then here I was, a baby, and I guess it got locked in.
Right.
They were up and ambulatory and speaking by the time I came, so my mother thought of them and then me.
Right. Well, okay, that makes sense. But do you feel like your sisters, to an extent, also kind of like played a big part in raising you as well?
No,
not so much.
No, my sisters played a really good part in toughening me up.
Okay, interesting.
They were like having older brothers instead of sisters.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Would you say you're close to them now?
No.
No.
It's terrible, but no. Okay. I haven't seen either of them in ages, and it's terribly sad.
Oh.
They don't want to see me. It's not that I don't want to see them. It's weird.
I mean, was it like a fallout or something?
No.
Oh, interesting.
After our parents passed away, we just
drifted apart.
They're like, don't talk to me. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. It is what it is, I guess.
It is okay.
Yeah.
But you may want to cut this part out, but it's the truth.
So let's go back to your childhood then. You mentioned that you were about 3 years old when you had a life-altering sort of moment. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. When I was 3, I was hospitalized to have a birthmark removed. I had a birthmark in the middle of my forehead, and there's still a slight scar. But and it's funny what they say about birthmarks. This is just an aside. You know how people have birthmarks and they say that's like from a previous life? Mine really literally
I've
was.
heard of that. Yeah.
Yes, it
Really?
literally was. And I remembered exactly what happened. We can get into that later. But you wanted to ask about, I was going in for surgery, plastic surgery to have it removed, but they weren't so great at anesthetizing small children in 1961 or 2 or whatever it was, right? I was little, and it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I remember the cone going over my this is really funny, I'm sorry. It was an ether cone, drip, drip, drip ether cone. That's how long ago it
Oh my
was.
gosh.
I know. Would you believe it? It was like the dark ages of medicine. But they put this ether cone over me, and the next thing I know, I am above the doctors going, "What are you doing down there? What are you doing?" I'm serious.
Wow. So this was like immediate. So there was
I died right away. I was dead. Sure enough dead.
That's
Isn't that funny?
crazy.
And then, of course, then it becomes like everybody else's story, the light and the golden room and the meeting the relatives and the talking. And I met my grandmother, Rita, my grandmother, my mother's mother, who had passed away in, I believe it was 1937. So clearly I hadn't been, but she talked to me. It was really nice. I remember what she said. It was really sweet.
What did she say?
She told me that she was so happy to get to meet me and talk to me. And let me see, what a lucky child I was to be so loved, la, la, la. And I have to go back. And I'm like, I don't want to go. Everybody says this too. I don't want to go back.
Right.
It's too nice here.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody on their NDE says that because you don't want to go back. And here's why. There is such a feeling of peace, belonging, safety, knowingness that you never want to leave it.
I mean, would you say
Like,
this is happiness? Like that this is the absolute truth of happiness?
Happiness, I think it would be more like contentment and perfection. Like the needs are gone. The pain is gone.
Right.
The wants are gone. The stress is gone. Everything's gone.
But hold on, you were 3 years old at this point. You hadn't experienced stress and pain. I mean, to that extent, right? To an extent that an adult would.
Oh, I had. I had. My elder sister, who was 6 at the time of my birth, hated me. And she dedicated her life to causing physical pain. It was really weird.
Right.
But yeah. And so I was pinched and stuck with diaper pins and all kinds of weird stuff. My sister is sadistic. The eldest sister, she's really weird. I think they got her mental health help after that, but
really?
She was not well mentally.
So like you basically experienced a form of abuse, I guess, at that point.
Yeah, it was abuse. It was abuse. Of course, my mother didn't notice it, but I remember it well. And as any child, and you grow up with that, you expect it to be, that's normal. You don't know that it's different. You expect life to be like that.
Right.
Which is why after I passed away, God, so nice. I don't have to keep looking over my shoulder. I don't have to,
Right. You don't have to live in that fear. Nice. Right. What else did you see in that NDE when you stepped out?
I saw the house that I would later buy, which was really weird. I walked through it. That's odd. I walked through a house that later became my house.
Oh.
Walked through it. Sat in a room that was later the sunroom of this house. And then a door opened, the golden part opened, and that's when my grandmother was there. And then just before you're able to go out and experience and learn and do, that's when I was whisked back.
You were whisked back. So you didn't have a choice, or you had to say, like, accept?
I had no choice. I had no choice.
You reckon this is because you were only 3 years old? Do you think this was an age thing?
Basically, she said, it's not my time now. She said, my mother needs me. I'm like, no, she doesn't.
Yeah.
Could have fooled me.
Right. How long were you pronounced dead for legally?
Oh, the doctor did not let my mother know. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Do you think he would fess up that he killed me? No.
Right.
I was never pronounced dead. It was a serious, like they're starting to hurry up and But the
Right.
nurses knew. And the nurses and I had a long conversation. My mother pshawed all of it. Pish, pish, piddle. Stop talking nonsense kind of a thing. But the nurses and I had a wonderful conversation about it. They were very sweet.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the time space concept? Is that something that is non-existent when you are outside of the
totally.
realm of Earth?
That one goes more to here's the thing. When you're in the next plane, I'm going to go back even further. There are levels of experience, right? You go plane one, first dimension, second dimension, third dimension with this us, and then fourth dimension, then fifth dimension. People are always talking about this, right?
Hold on. I need you to explain this a little bit more because I haven't heard about this. First dimension?
Haven't? Okay, we already know what first dimension is. First dimension is a plane. We learned about that in geometry class.
Yeah.
Point A to point B,
right.
a line.
Okay.
That's first dimension.
Yeah.
Second dimension is a sheet of paper, right? 3 dimensions is a box.
Right. Okay.
We live in the third dimension.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Then there is the fourth dimension, which goes into like multiple accesses to boxes. You have multiple boxes. Then there's the fifth dimension. And I don't have words to explain fifth dimension, but it's basically what people call heaven. And then there's the sixth dimension, and this gets into string theory with quantum physics. That is the multiple heavens theory, the multiple worlds theory.
I've heard of
and then
the multiple
there is
universe.
The seventh dimension.
Right.
And this also gets into quantum physics, which is God, what they call the God particle, which I personally think maybe the number 7, why so many people talk about 777 being the number of God. I'm thinking, maybe they know something, but that's the seventh dimension. But when people see ghosts, they're looking into the fourth dimension. Get it? It's the place of being here, but not here in all spaces. And there is no time and space once you leave the third dimension. There's no time and space literally in the first and second either, because it's all compressed into, it's just a point and then a plane. And then there's a box. So that's how it works. And if there's probably quantum physicists going, rolling their eyes going, gee whiz, this lady doesn't know what she's talking about, and knowing a better way to explain it mathematically. But that's essentially it in layman's terms.
Interesting. And so you would say when you have your near-death experience, when you'd left, you had entered the fourth dimension.
I had entered the fourth dimension. Yes. And then access to the fifth. In the Catholic Church, fourth dimension is technically purgatory. And believe me, there's nothing you can do except go ahead and pass through purgatory, or you're stuck there forever. Just saying. Which is why people see ghosts. They're either locus, they're stuck on a location, or they're echo consciousness, which these are the people that, repeat the same stuff over and over again. They're just an echo of what was there in the past. People see that a lot in buildings where they see the little girl walking and that kind of thing. That's echo consciousness. And I can't really get into there are metaphysical people who have perfect explanations for all of this, but it's just what I've noticed and what I've seen. Because of the NDEs, I have this ability to pass through the quote unquote dimensions.
Right.
Connect through.
What is the highest of dimensions you've experienced?
the 6th. Totally cool. Not gonna lie.
That's so crazy.
Totally cool. Totally cool.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I want to hear you tell me about how you've crossed all of those and what you've experienced in all of those. But I'm guessing that did not happen when you were 3 years old in the first NDE, right?
No.
It's just like, okay.
No, this was later on when I was a full-grown person.
Right.
Yes, an adult woman. It's the second one. That was in 1999.
Okay.
It was April 15th, 1999.
Mhm.
And I even know the time of day, if the clock was correct, because I looked at it. It was 1:47 Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. Wow. Oddly specific. What happened?
It was oddly specific. It's true.
Yeah. I wonder if there's significance to that, though, like for it to be, so vivid in your memory.
I don't know. I don't know.
So walk me through that one.
Oh, that one was, I train horses, been training horses for a long time. And at the time, I was riding a very vindictive Arabian gelding. Vindictive. So Arabians can because they're very, very smart. And this one was older and been lied to and pressured and all. I mean, that's a whole nother story, too. Anybody who knows animals will know what I'm talking about. Humans teach animals that.
True. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, they don't come with that. Humans teach that.
Yep.
So I was trying to teach him how to do something without getting his panties in a wad, so to speak.
Yeah.
And my method of training is no, try that again. No punishment. No, try that again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we did no, try that again for about 45 minutes.
Okay.
He was ripping pissed. I mean, he was mad. And so I walk him back to the barn after I got what I want. Thank you. Now we get to go home. Thank you.
Yeah.
And as I was getting off, he reared up, flipped me over backwards, and I landed on the back of my head and broke my neck and died. Broke C3, C4, and C5. And C4 is broken directly through the foramen. It was like I was dead. I was dead meat.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and just before I lost consciousness, I heard a whisper in my ear saying, roll, because I was tipped backwards. I heard a whisper in my ear saying, roll over. So I rolled over and put my head forward on my arms like that. And that's where I woke up 45 minutes later. But when I left, this is funny. I remember standing up and looking down at my dead body and going, oh, shit, not again. Like,
it's like a movie.
Reaction. Damn.
But I'm actually surprised that you didn't want to experience this again. You'd experienced ultimate.
I had 2 children in it who were under the age of 8.
So you actually wanted to be back on Earth for your children.
My children needed me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
look at the turn of events that life took. Like
I know,
you were the daughter, and now you're the mother.
Parenting thing.
Yeah, it's like a interesting little theme in your life death experience.
That's really true. I didn't notice that correlation, but you did. Good for you. That's great. Yeah. So what happened is I went to the, there is a hook. It's and other people mention that there's this drawing, there's this pull to the light. And many people experience the corridor of the light. Remember in the first one, I walked through a house that I later owned. This one, I walked a very short, it was a very, very short distance. The other one was very long, I guess because I had a lot of life to go through. But this one was very, very short. And I get into the light and I'm like going up there and I'm in the light, like actually in the light, about to go into the full 4th dimension irrevocably, there ain't no way back. So I'm kind of in the 4th dimension and I hear this sort of, you have a choice. I'm like, choices? Ooh.
Yeah.
You can go or you can stay. And I'm like, my kids need me. I think I'll stay. They said, well, then you need to promise to do what you came here to do. And I'm like,
what's that?
really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I said, okay, before I even knew what it
Even knew what it
was.
was. But isn't it like when you are in so with my previous guest, what he said as well was when he was in that state, in that in that field, in that dimension, he just, he had as soon as he had a thought, the answer would come to him. It was like he was all knowing. So he would ponder something for a split second and then he would just know the answer to it. It was like nobody had to tell it to him, but he just knew everything. Was that
Well,
the case for you?
that's exactly what happens when you channel from the fifth and sixth dimension. You become a knowing. That's what I do. I've learned how to get there, and I channel from there. But when this happened, I was already saying yes and turning around and leaving the light before I got the knowing.
Mm,
And the
right.
knowing was, you came here to heal the people and tell the truth. And I'm like, do I have to?
Yeah. I just want to be with my kids, man.
It was one of those, oh. And what's really funny is I woke up later and I had a broken arm and a broken neck. And I walked around for, I want to say 6 hours, 7 hours before seeking help. And I had a snapped broken arm and 3 broken vertebrae.
Wow.
Now,
How?
tell me I wasn't being protected.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because when I drove myself to the hospital, this is what a great hospital it was. They put a wrap on my arm, which had a complete snap of the ulnar and radius. The ulnar and radius.
God.
Isn't that hilarious? They put a wrap on it, one of those carpal tunnel wraps.
Right,
You
right.
know,
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
put that on there. And then they said, anything else hurt? And I said, well, my neck feels stiff. And my neck feels stiff. So they do an x-ray and they go like that for a second. And they run around. They said, we're going to do an MRI. And so they did an MRI and they ran around a little bit and they went, well, she's still alive.
Yeah.
I can hear that. Well,
That's what I was
she's still
thinking. Like,
alive.
how? Exactly.
And they gave me a cervical collar. They put it on upside down. Seriously. They put it on upside down. And they
Wow.
said, okay, you need to call this orthopedic surgeon tomorrow and make an appointment. Bye. Literally, that's what happened. And so I get to the doctor the next day, and it was exactly like that scene in Death Becomes Her. Like, why aren't you dead?
Yeah. What's
You're not
going
dead.
on here?
I mean, and he started yelling at me, why aren't you dead? And I'm like, I have a really bad headache, if you don't mind. I was puking in his trash can because after a bad concussion, it makes you
Yeah.
nauseous, and
Yeah.
your eyes are different. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's medical science, right? And he's
Yeah.
yelling at me, why aren't you dead? I'm like, I wish I were at this point, please.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And he was so angry. All he did was take that. This is weird too. He took that cervical collar off of me, turned it right side up, put it back on and put casting material on it so I couldn't take it off. And then he put a cast on my arm and said, go away. Isn't that weird?
That's so crazy.
But here's the craziest part, which is why I know there were hands in this that I had nothing to do with, right? There was no work done at all on my neck, none.
Right.
And clearly I suffered for just a little bit healing, right? About 10, 11 years. It took a long time to get it to where, it was really stiff. And I went to a chiropractor, and the chiropractor took an x-ray, and he said, I thought you said you broke your neck. And I'm like,
yeah.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I can't see any of it here. It's healed seamlessly. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's really crazy. Oh, and another part, I started, when was this? Right after I got the cervical collar off, I was having, radial arm pain.
Mm-hmm.
And my older sister, the one who worked for hospitals, she got me an appointment with the Atlanta Falcons neurologist, their specialist that deals with neck pain and cervical problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he took an MRI of me and looked at it, and he says, well, looks like you can't play football anymore. And I went, sorry. And and
Opportunity
then I
lost.
said, well, what's going on with my neck? And he says, well, believe it or not, you were born with a congenital bubble in your dura, which is the covering of your spinal cord, right at the point of the break, and it held your bones from crushing your spinal cord. And what you're feeling is the tiniest little nick that fresh break did, because he could see the break because it had only been 6, 8 weeks since it was broken.
Mhm.
And there's the knitting of it. And I'm like, you're kidding.
That's
He goes,
crazy.
no, there is a bubble. It's very rare to have a bubble. And not only do you have a bubble, but you broke right at the bubble. I'm like, wow.
What are the chances?
Woo.
Yeah, it was almost like in a way that it was like all meant to sort of like happen in this certain
No,
way.
circle, time
Yeah,
circle.
right.
It's so weird because remember, everything is happening now. If you
Mhm.
believe the multi worlds theory,
Mhm.
which is why psychics can see things from the past and the future because it's all happening now and they access that dimension of all nows.
Right.
Do you get it?
How do you connect with earthly things? Like after all these experiences and seeing what you see and knowing what you know, how are you able to sort of like form relationships with people, or how do you get people to even believe what you
I've
experienced?
given up a long time ago even trying.
Mhm.
Seriously. This has happened now. Remember, this was 1999, so it's been a hot minute. And I got messages. I got so many messages. I got so much stuff. I got told to do all this stuff. And I finally realized, like what they say in the Bible about free will and free choice, just because you ask me to do it doesn't mean I have to, damn it. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
go away.
Right.
Get somebody else. I remember at one point I was getting so many hits to get up and say something or do whatever. It was during the swine flu epidemic, and this was I think 2005 or 6 in the States. And people of my middle age at the time were getting pneumonia and getting very, very sick. And I remember hearing the voice in my head, the thing that was telling me what I'm supposed to do and how am I supposed to help people, telling me I need to get up and go to the hospital because I was dying. And I'm like, ain't doing it. I don't want to work for you anymore. I mean, I
Really?
literally had this conversation. And he said, "You're really willing." It's a he. It was a deep voice. It was, "You're actually willing to lay here and die rather than get up and do blah 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 blah." I won't say what he asked me to do. And I went, "Uh-huh." Because you realize if I say stuff like that, I will get crucified. I will get vilified. I will be, I'm not
Mhm.
volunteering for prophets to be a prophet. Thank you very
Right.
much. No,
Yeah.
ain't happening.
Right.
Not today. And and he says, "Well, we'll see about that." I went, "Fine." And I lay, like I was in the bed, I'm like, "Let me just die in peace." And I was cool with it, because I knew what was gonna happen next. And, when that voice said, "We'll see about that," my 16-year-old freshly licensed daughter walked in the room, was about to ask me, a usual teenager question, right? "Mom, can I," you know what I mean? And she
Mhm.
goes, "Mom, you're blue." And she threw me in the car and drove me to the hospital. And it was like literally 1001, 1002. She walks in the door right after they said, "We'll see about
Right.
that." I'm like,
Yeah. Damn.
it's been weird. I'm not gonna lie. It has been absolutely a weird journey. And one of these days I should probably write a book
You
because it's
really
been awesome.
should. This is really interesting stuff. There's a lot of individuals who've come out with their stories about this stuff and even doctors. Like I think it was like Dr. Brian Wise who talked about like past life regression. Interesting stuff, but of course, like a lot of people approach it with a lot of skepticism, even if it's coming from the eyes of a doctor or a scientist. It's like how can't see it, can't believe it. It's just
Good.
it's that rule
Good
of
for
thumb.
them. Thank
Yeah,
you. You'll find out at the end of your life. Good job.
yeah. Can you tell me about some other really like interesting things that have happened or times where you've maybe said something you believe or is going to happen and it's actually come to fruition to which you've been able
Oh,
to
it
say,
happens all the time. Happens all the time. One of my favorite times, this is great. Um, okay, so I was doing my job of healing the people and telling the truth, right? And I had a client, a young woman who had, and I mean, she wasn't even technically a woman, she was 17. And she had such agoraphobia and had so many, she called it dematerializing problems, where she, like she lost her ability to be alive, kind of, like
Mm.
everything freaked her out so badly. Her mother brought her to me. It was sort of a last ditch effort. They'd brought her first to child psychologist, because this started when she was like 7 or 8, all the way up to different doctors and chiropractors and chelation therapies and alternative
Mm.
medicine. They just drove her all over the world. Her father was in the music industry, and so a successful musician. So he had a lot of money. We live in Nashville,
Mm.
and so this child also had a lot of musical talent. And the only time that she didn't feel this way was when she was performing her music or writing her music. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That means her real self is
Mm.
okay. This is her false self. And so, anyway, I worked with her maybe 5, 6, 7 times, and she got through that. But during one of the sessions, I looked at her and went, and this was before, I mean, like 3 years before any of this happened. I looked at her and went, oh my God, you're going to fall in love with your producer and get married and have children. And she goes, what? At the time, I think she was 19. They had a baby 6 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
that was
amazing.
that was years ago, 5 years ago. She's 24 now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
20, yeah, 23, 24 years old. She's got she's touring. She's,
Right.
this is a woman who could not drive a car, couldn't go to school, couldn't be left alone in the house.
And here she
And
is.
now she's out touring.
Right.
I mean, she was opening for, really big name bands.
Well, what is this healing that you do? Is it like Reiki, or like, can you talk me through that?
No, not at all. Reiki is like hiring a maid to clean your house.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
true. I'm like hiring an architect and a contractor
Okay.
that goes in the similar space that it takes for the maid to clean a house, remodel your kitchen.
Huh.
Do you get it?
Yeah. What are
Very
the
different.
what are the physical, like, how do you do it?
I can't effing tell you. I channel from the 6th dimension, whatever it is that the human is needing, or taking away whatever the human has and doesn't need.
Mm-hmm.
It's the quickest way to answer that.
Right.
So if somebody is having an issue, they're trying, because everything is energy. When you think about it, all things are made of energy
Right.
at some point and level in their world. We have a hard time in Newtonian physics to get there, but even Newton agrees that everything is energy,
Right.
including gravity.
Yeah.
So in that, I have this interesting ability to, most of the time it's usually following the vibrations of the voice when the person is talking about what it is they have and don't want, or what it is they want and don't have, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be able to trace whether I have access, and it's literally access, to work with it. Either I can tell them exactly what they need to do, or if I have access, I can do it for them. And I'd rather empower people to do it for themselves, because all humans have the ability to take care of everything. It's just
Right.
that a lot of times they were indoctrinated really, really young to take away their autonomy, because
Yeah.
it's easier to parent them when they don't have any autonomy.
Yeah. True. True sense.
No, you put that chair back and get out of the freezer.
Right.
I said, "You
Exactly.
couldn't have any ice cream."
Yep. Critical thinking decreased.
Yes, it's true.
Freedom
It
of
really
thought.
is easier to parent people who have no autonomy and
Right.
need to ask permission for everything.
Right.
And so we systematically teach our children to do that. So therefore they believe they're powerless, when
Mm-hmm.
actually they're put on this earth everybody has a ton of power.
Right.
That's all.
But is there like a practice, like, or do you simply like sit there and listen to them and do some sort of like meditation to channel this? Like it just comes to you.
What is it like?
Is it energy draining? Like, does it take energy from you? What does it
It
look
does
like?
sometimes,
Like,
yeah. It does.
yeah.
But most of the time, The energy that is drained from me, because I am in human design known as a projector, the energy is basically me not taking on anybody else's stuff. And so it's my force fields that are taking so much energy from me. When I channel, I have no fucking clue how I do it. It's the same way I used to astral project as a child. You just think and go.
Mm.
You question. It's more of what if, I wonder, and then you're there. And you'll hear that again in near-death experiences that, when people, it's like dream travel. You're there.
Right.
You get it?
Interesting.
You know how you travel in dreams?
Yeah. Yeah.
One minute
You
you're here, next minute you're there.
Yeah.
That's how things are.
So did you always have control over that? Or was there, like, when you were young, a time where you'd walk on the streets and you would just see all of these things and you would enter and tap into all these dimensions without welcoming it or wanting it? And you just like,
Yes, that happens. And that happens to a lot of people. And one of these days, hopefully shortly, I'm going to create a course that helps people deal with that. Because when the stuff turns on, and I'm going to say this slowly so everybody hears you or hears me, the issue with a lot of our psychic gifts, remember, everybody has them, but we suppress them or turn them off. And psychic gifts are exactly like any other gift. Everybody can sing, but not everybody can sing well. Some people really have a talent and some people don't. Some people really have the ability to tap in and some people don't. But if you have suppressed it and it begins to turn back on, the vibrations that you receive are invariably negative because they're lower vibrations. Think of a boom car. Lower vibrations cut through everything. And every energy has a vibration.
right.
We learn this in science class. All of it has a vibration,
Right.
not just music. Everything has a vibration. And so that is the easiest way to say is the shit that comes in first is not so much fun. But a psychiatrist once told me, because this was happening to me, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm hearing voices and seeing visions.
Yeah.
And my older sister's crazy, so am I.
Yeah. Right.
And my psychiatrist, bless her heart, was from India, Dr. Rao. And she looked at me after about 10 minutes and said, you have a gift from God. If you don't like it, ask God to take it back. And I'm like, really? I can control it?
Right.
There you go. And so you
Interesting.
can control it. And that's the course I want to teach, is how people can learn to control and discern. And understand that you're not the only one. You're not weird.
Right.
There's a lot of us out there.
Is chakras a thing? Is that true when people say open up your chakras?
They're more like
so you
fuses. Chakras are fuses.
can...
They're like saying, is plumbing a thing?
Right. I'm not too sure. I'm not very big on this kind of stuff, but I do have friends that are really, really spiritual, and they talk about all these ways to open and access the chakras and how that can help you like reach your deepest and most inner spiritual self and stuff. So
that's dogma. Sorry. In the folks that help me say everybody has the same wiring. And if your wiring is dimmed or occluded, you did it for a reason. It's more important to discover the reason for the dimming than attempting to undim. Because the minute you undim, your perfect little rules of self-conscious are going to dim it again. There's no such thing as calcified pineal glands, according to them. Although I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. If you have calcification in your brain, you are in trouble. It's called Alzheimer's. Okay? Seriously, it's not a good thing.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. Interesting.
So, your subconscious has dimmed the receivers for a reason. And generally, it's done all before age 6, and it's generally, unfortunately, through pain. Humans learn through pain, which is why people inflict it so nicely to teach.
Hmm.
And remember, I came from the era of it was okay for everybody to hit the child, right?
Right.
School, church, doesn't matter. You got to
Mm.
smack.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah. So, how is it then that you were still able to sort of keep that, alive and being so in tune with all of this if it was being suppressed? Uh-huh.
I just kept quiet. That was my okay. Since I spent a lot of time by myself as a child,
Hmm.
I had to entertain myself. And so I used my gifts to entertain myself. But that was my special thing that I didn't tell anybody else about or share or talk about because I
Right.
learned it got me in trouble.
Hmm. Interesting.
And I'll bet there's a lot of listeners out there that kind of feel the same way. Like they have a knowingness, they have a feeling of things. Like also, I am what's known as a physical empath, and other people are like this. When somebody else talks about pain, you feel pain. When somebody talks about a headache, you'll feel it. When somebody talks about, emotional pain comes out as physical pain in your body. And that's not weird, that's just you, and you can control it.
Mm.
There are many kinds of ways of receiving information beyond the five senses.
Right.
And all humans have that ability. Think about this. Have you ever sat on a train or a bus and known when somebody was looking at you from
Yeah.
behind you?
Yeah.
Every damn time.
Yeah.
Tell me how you did that.
True. It's just
See
like
what I mean?
just like this like eerie feeling that is like
It's a
existing.
feeling.
Yeah.
That's what it always is. Your body has millions of ways to receive things.
Hmm.
So just because we're taught that we're not supposed to do that doesn't mean that we can't.
Right.
Okay?
So what are some other things that people can like look out for? Like what can we pay attention to that maybe we don't, or like that you can bring to the forefront of our mind to notice that we maybe don't notice otherwise that can maybe even
This is
help
my
us?
favorite one. I have a favorite one. And this happens a lot to women who give their authority away to others.
Hmm.
I call them people pleasers. There is a moment when somebody is crossing your boundaries and you feel it and ignore it to your detriment.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you what that feeling is. There's a feeling of pressure, and it's right in your solar plexus or like here. And when somebody is asking you to do something you don't want to do, but you end up doing it, you go, why?
Hmm.
You feel that pressure feeling first. That is your body telling you, don't do it.
Hmm. Like your gut.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a gut or in your upper chest. And it's almost like there's a physical pressure on you. That is somebody else's energy encroaching on your energy, on
Hmm.
your space. That's why they call it boundaries.
Right.
When somebody is crossing your boundary, your body's going to tell you. Or another one, this happens a lot with when people are meeting narcissists, when empaths are meeting narcissists. They'll get a warning because narcissists will always test. They'll always cross your boundary and do something rude, and you'll go, "Oh, no, no, no," and you'll be very polite about it,
Hmm.
and then they go, "Oh, good, this is one." It's like my dog used to run around at the dog park and sniff all the dogs' butts to find one that would allow them to hump him. It's
Right.
like that's what narcissists do. They sniff all the people to find somebody who's gonna allow them to encroach, and
Hmm.
so your body is going to tell you when you're being encroached, and you were taught to ignore it. So the best time is when you feel that pressure. Sometimes it's so fleeting to
Hmm.
just go, "Oh,
Hmm.
run away. Warning, warning." You
Right.
know? This is a no.
And so these are certain practices that you're trying to say that people can take to sort of be more in tune with themselves so that that can help them even step into these different sort of dimensions as well, which is just listen to those inner voices, those inner thoughts, those spark of a moment.
Yeah. If you listen to, there are a million practitioners out there saying that your body is wise. And if you listen to your body, and I've got a number of ways that one can learn how to listen to their body. And like I said, I got to write that course on
You really
being,
should.
I really do, on how to turn your stuff on. But the main thing is to, when you have a feeling, and it doesn't matter what the feeling is, stop and get curious instead of going. We always ignore that. Because how many times when something bad happens, you say something, you're like, I knew that was going to go bad. You say that to yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Then why didn't you fucking listen the first time?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You knew it.
Yeah, it's weird. I think that we just live in this world where we're just so bombarded with all this marketing material and content that, it confuses us and we lose sight of like what it is that, we truly think. And so, I should invest in this, but I don't know, like online everywhere it's saying you should, but then I don't know if I feel like this is a good idea, but like everyone is saying that this is a great place to invest in. And, next thing you think that you know better because you've read all the facts that are out there. But
your gut has already told you no. And you didn't listen.
Yeah.
Yep. It happens all the time. And it has happened to me enough. Now, when it's really a bad idea, you're going to get what I call the chills, where there's an ice feeling running down your body into your gut. And I know you've felt that before. When something very bad is about to happen, there's a chill.
Yeah.
And if that chill happens, you run as fast as you can.
Yeah.
I mean it. Because I have ignored that. That's the 2x4 over the head. Don't do it.
Right.
But the pressure, that one's light. But the chill, run.
Yeah.
Run.
Interesting.
I've felt the chill twice in my life and I ignored it and I regretted it. It cost me a lot of money.
Can you tell me a little bit about spirituality? Would you say that you were a spiritual person? Would you give yourself that term?
I would actually go that I am a person that is in flow and connected. Spirituality is not a religion. It's a state of mind and a state of connection.
Right.
It's not a practice. It's a being. And so in my particular case, I would say I am looking for flow. It's the two are not separate. It's like, how in the medical world, they cut the body up into all these different pieces, but it's still just one body.
Right.
You cannot separate yourself from parts of your life. It doesn't go well. So when you are connected with the essence of you, which is essentially what spirituality is, you are connected with you and your place in all that is, then it is part of everything you do. And I would not call myself spiritual, but I would call myself connected. Because in this day and age, people are using the word spirituality as a practice, as a religion.
Right.
And it's not. Especially not if you're, saying, well, my spirituality is better than your spirituality. No, that's religion.
Yeah, that's the dogma. That's the practice that comes with it. So what about when you talked about heaven, that being one dimension? I mean, I've always thought that heaven was something that was connected to a specific religion because, I don't know, Hinduism doesn't believe in heaven per se. They have maybe a different term for it.
They do believe in the next place.
Right.
They do believe in the next dimensional place. They don't name it heaven, but they name it the place where all souls go.
Right.
Right? They do. That's why they have reincarnation of a soul.
Okay.
Because they I don't know how to explain it. I don't have any words. I can only, it's just pictures. It's pictures of a place, like you'll see it depicted in movies. And remember that Disney movie about the Soul, it was called, where all the souls are lined up, and it's actually not unlike that. It's hilarious.
Casper,
it's
the friendly ghost. Like Casper the Friendly Ghost.
No, Casper's different. That's not it. But
Mhm.
there's a movie from a few years ago that Disney put out called Soul,
Okay.
and they got a lot of that stuff right. They really got deep into spirituality with that. Like um, understand. They must have interviewed a lot of people who had near death experiences and talked to a lot of like Buddhist leaders and Hindu and all the other stuff.
Mhm.
Because there is no quote unquote deity. There is no quote unquote supreme being because there's a piece of that supremeness in all of us. And what is supreme is the energy.
Right.
And that's very difficult to explain. It's the notion of pure peace and flow, which is why there are so many practices about how to get into flow and so many rules about staying out of the negativity. And it's very difficult to say this in English, but essentially, it's the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have to do unto yourself?
Mhm.
And if you hate yourself, then clearly you're going to hate other people.
Right. Like the same thing with the whole concept of like, what you put out there into the universe is what you'll get back. Like almost in the sense that the secret, you put the energy out there, you're going to pull that back into your own life in a sense. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, and we're going to yes and that. What the more immediate things people are going to notice are when you are a certain way, the humans in your life are going to reflect back to you the way you're being.
Mhm.
So that is the true essence of what you put out there, you're going to get back.
Right.
Because imagine this, you walk into the kitchen, you have a shitty day, and your husband goes back.
Mm.
What happened? He was perfectly fine before he walked it,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, that's just that's what you put out in the world is going to get reflected back. It's not it's not a slot machine like The Secret wants you to know. Like
Mhm.
I put a coin in, then they're going to give me a coin back.
Mhm.
It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. What it works like, and I'm getting into the level of toxic spirituality that you have to keep all your things positive.
Mm.
No, it's what you believe you deserve. That's
Right.
it. That's what comes to you is what you believe you deserve.
Mhm.
It's very simple.
It sounds so easy. How do we
It
get
is
there
easy.
though?
It is so simple. People want to make it hard. People are amazing at making things hard, and it's quite simple. That's what my guides do. They teach people how to live a more peaceful and happy life in very simple terms because it is simple. We make it hard. We expect things to be hard, so we create hard.
Hmm.
It just is.
Right.
That's that life either is or isn't. It's like when I'm healing people and I'm seeing the energy, it's literally like a computer, like ones and zeros. It's a is or is not. End of story. Do we want it to be an is? Or do we want it to be an is not? It has no meaning. It has no purpose. It just is a one or a zero, and
Hmm.
that's the way it is in the universe. All things are either a one or a zero. The meaning comes from this.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know we're getting deep in the weeds here.
I love it though. I think this is great though. I feel like this in itself can be really therapeutic for listeners as well. Like that they know that they have the power to change sort of that whole dynamic around for themselves. It's just giving enough self-love and self-belief and self-efficacy and self-trust in the process as well that yes, I can. And it's not like necessarily forcing it, but like, you know, just turning that mentality around, turning that narrative around. And there was an episode that I did with someone who actually did kind of hinted to me that sometimes it may start off with the physical practices of like saying physically the affirmation, saying I can, saying I do, saying it enough until you actually start to believe in it. And because it can be really hard to sort of say like what you feel, what you deserve, when it's like, okay, but what do I need to do to get there? What are the steps? Do I need to take therapy to feel like I deserve it? Do I need like a magic potion to get to that process in my head that I genuinely deserve the best in the world? Everyone wants to deserve the best in the world, right?
This is true.
Yeah.
I liken this to. Do you remember back in the 2000s that magic eye where you couldn't see anything until you looked at it, and then you couldn't stop seeing it
Yeah. Yeah.
once you did?
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what spirituality is. And yes, my guides told me long ago that affirmations are merely signposts. You still
Mhm.
have to travel there yourself. But it's not really travel. You have to allow yourself to become. And so, we like to be human doings instead of human beings.
Mm.
And in the case of moving from the basement, which is where I was, I explained how stressful my early childhood was. It was traumatic, very traumatic. In fact, at one point, my older sister actually almost killed me. So that was, I mean, she was pretty rough on me. But in the God, this death thing, there's so much of it. In the understanding that I had value was the magic eye. That's the level of the magic eye. Once you can see the value, and here's the first step. The first step is to understand, and I love this, because remember how we're all taught that God is outside of us, and we have to
Mhm.
look outside of us to find
Mhm.
that God. But in reality, God is in all of us. There is the spark of God, which is what causes our heart to beat, in
Mm.
all of us. And as the many people believe, is carried through the breath. And through breath there is life. And
Mhm.
when you don't breathe, then there's no more life,
Right.
right? And so that's in the most simple terms, but what you need to understand is if you love that deity outside of you, you just need to accept that the deity is also inside. So how can you possibly hate yourself? Because
Mhm.
you're perfect. You're
Mhm.
absolutely perfect. There's nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. It's just what you believe that's broken.
Mm.
Do you get it?
Yeah.
And it's that's the magic eye, is making that leap from where you are now to the understanding that it may not be okay right now, but it's gonna be okay because I trust the deity inside me.
Mhm.
And that's a hard leap. And I was lucky. I got a big fat push in 1999.
Yeah.
A gigantic one.
Yeah.
But even then, I forget that and I still believe I am, a muggle. I still forget. Oh, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
have to do that.
That's crazy. Can
Yeah,
you
it
can
is
you
bizarre.
can you describe the dimensions to me? What did they look like? What did they feel like? What did you see? What did heaven look like? All of it.
Well, okay, we're in the 3rd dimension. We
Yeah.
already know about,
The
the
first, second.
dot and the plane,
Yeah.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then we're in the 3rd, and the 4th dimension is access to multiple 3rd dimensions. That's the 4th dimension. Now, I'm gonna preface this to any math people out there, physicists out there. I flunked math. This is just what I've seen. This is just my personal opinion, okay?
Mhm.
So, what I have seen in the 4th dimension is it's like, when you're driving out in the country and the radio stations bleed through,
Yeah.
it's like you can receive information from different stations. It's like different radio stations. And you can tune your radio station down here, or you can tune it all the way up, right?
Mhm.
And you get different tunings.
Right.
That's like 4th dimension, but when you get very high to the bandwidth, you're moving into 5th dimension, the higher vibration. 5th dimension is super high vibration. And when people talk about channeling angels, they are connecting with the energy of the 5th dimension, which is technically the angelic realm.
That's
And then
crazy. And so those numbers that people talk about, the 111, 222, 123, those white feathers, those kind of things that, like pop up in our view. Is that angels communicating with us in a sense?
yes and no. Here's the thing. Humans love to make meaning in things that may or may not have meaning.
Right. They want to see it with
They
their
really
eyes.
love it.
Right.
They really, really love it. That's
Yeah.
just so amazing that humans want to create meaning. I mean, think about it. Everything in this world was created by a human,
Mhm.
including the language we're speaking and the
Right.
beliefs that we have.
Yeah.
So, all I can say In my personal case, when I see a number or I see the feather, it's sometimes a feather and it's sometimes a pay attention notice. It can be either one, depending on how it feels to the spark of God within me.
Right.
Make sense?
Interesting. Yeah.
I refer everybody back to the best authority they have, themselves.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you think, to an extent, meditation can help us with that?
There are several reasons that people meditate. The first reason people would find benefit in meditate is it teaches this thing to shut up.
Right. Exactly.
It's like trying to do something when there's 15 kids yelling at you and the radio's on and the TV's on. You can't hear yourself think.
Mm-hmm.
Only it's going on inside. I have this really cool meditation where you can step through your thoughts into pure quiet. And it's short and amazing if you want to end the podcast with that. Would you like to?
Yes, I would. I would love to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd like everybody to close their eyes and take a very deep breath. And then exhale. You can try this. Play along.
Okay.
And then slowly exhale like you stuck a pin in a pin cushion and it's deflating. Very good. Now breathe in again. And just let it slowly fall out. One more time. And then a third breath, the same way. And as you're exhaling, I'd like you to imagine that you're a little person inside your head, looking at the screen, like a TV screen of your thoughts, or you're in the place. Just say, put me in the place where my thoughts are so I can see them. And so you're seeing your thoughts. And you will notice that your thoughts aren't still, they're moving. Most people's move the way they read, from left to right or up or down or right to left. But your thoughts are going to move the way you've learned to read. And now you'll notice that there's gaps in between each thought. They just keep right on going. You'll notice it's off they go. One more thought. And sometimes they come fast and sometimes they come slow. And now you can notice that there's a space that your thoughts are floating in. Like it doesn't take up everything. They are only part of the everything that's there. And you'll notice there's a space behind those thoughts. Now, when there's a gap in your thought, slip yourself, you're noticing through that gap into that space behind. So your thoughts are behind you and you're looking into the emptiness that's out there. And keep moving into that emptiness until your thoughts just are behind you. You know, they're so far behind you, you barely notice them moving. It's just quiet and still. Now breathe in and notice that everything is still and quiet. And relax. And there you go.
Yeah. Damn.
Oh, I made
It was like blank for a minute.
Like it was screen freeze.
Oh no. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Like I saw the words kind of split apart, and then I saw this tunnel, and I saw myself like moving through that sort of like tunnel space, and then it was just
into
blank.
the quiet.
Yeah.
It's just blank. It's like all the noise is off.
Right.
That is your instant 2-minute meditation. You don't have to sit in meditation for hours and hours and hours. You just do that,
Right.
and you've meditated, and you
Yeah.
got quiet. That's all you need is quiet.
Mm.
It's nice to have them shut up too, isn't it?
Yeah, really.
Really nice.
Yeah.
I have a whole lot of little tiny meditations like that.
Do you have a
One's places.
meditation app?
No, but I probably should get one.
Yeah. Or,
I don't do any of this. Isn't that weird? It's like I have all this information. I'm just starting to realize that, oh, people would probably like this. Maybe I should
for
share this
sure.
with people. Because
Yeah.
I've just been sharing it with my clients, or I've just been, like when I work with people one on one, I'll walk them through whatever individual meditation they need. But
Mm.
these are just things that have been given to me over the years that work,
Right.
that truly, truly work to change how it is you are noticing your experience is the best way to
Mm.
put it.
Yeah.
You changed the way you noticed your experience there, didn't
Yeah.
you?
That's amazing. I'm gonna try to do this like more regular, like on the daily, just to sort of like quiet the noise a little bit, right?
It really makes a
Amazing.
difference.
That's really cool.
That's one reason that people meditate. Another reason people meditate is to get back in touch with this thing right here,
Mm.
the truth of themselves. Um, I had a thing that I used to do, technically while I was stoned as a teenager, where I would check my beliefs with what I was told was true. I figured out how to access my heart and I would check it. Well, actually, I never lost the access, remember, because it was my special thing. Um, I figured out that I could check whether it's a yes or no. And people who do this will know that there's this lifting feeling or sinking feeling. A yes is a sort of a buoyant, oh, yes,
Mm.
do that. You know how like you get excited? Oh, yeah, I can't wait. That's a
Yeah.
yes. And a no is sort of a sinky, droppy feeling.
Mm.
And so I went through every single one of the stuff I was taught as a child, like girls aren't supposed to live with guys, sex is bad, DDD, all these different rules, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, is this really true for me or is this true for everybody? And I was like, yeah, it's not true for me.
Yeah.
Like there you go.
Yeah.
And so if it was true, it would lift, and if it was not true, it would drop. And I would just start throwing out rules right and left and creating my own. And that is the next step for people to get their power back. Is
I
check
love
their
that.
bullshit rules.
Yeah.
Check them.
So I'm going to end this with one final question. It's how can our listeners find you? How can they find you? How can they get in touch with you? How can they be healed by you? How can you
Oh my goodness.
work your magic dust on them?
Well, I have a private session that I offer, but I think the best way to get in touch with me is to you can go to sallyreidmyname.com, and there's ways to get in touch with me there. And also there's a way to get me to speak for people there. And another thing is I offer every other Sunday a free sort of channeling where people can ask me questions and I talk about, like they can interview, like that type of thing. It's a free webinar style thing. You're not on camera, so you don't have to put on makeup. And that is sallyreid.com/opt-in SWG. And I've given you the link and you can include it with the show
In the
notes
description for sure. I'll put it in there
if they'd like to do that. My calendar's a little full right now, but I'm sure there'll be time for me so people can contact me or access me.
That's
and
amazing.
The cool, exciting thing that I'm developing, it's just in the beta, but it's open. It's called Blissful Life Academy. And it's where people can self-direct through the different layers of figuring out, like, where am I broken? What do I need to pay attention to? And it's in there that I am slowly adding these different meditations that people can do to help themselves. And this is like a membership, come and go as you want. And currently it's $20 US a month to join. So it's very, very affordable.
Right.
And that is, you will find that at sallyreid.com to access that.
Okay. Listeners, it is going to be there on the description. So click in. You can click directly at the link and then browse around on the website. And definitely, I'm going to be tuning into your Saturday session, your Sunday session. Sorry, you mentioned.
Yeah.
So
well, for you, it'll be Monday morning, won't it?
Oh, probably yes. Yeah, we're a little bit ahead of you guys. Yep, that's
I think
correct.
it's going to be Monday morning.
Amazing. Sally, thank you so much for today. I've had such an interesting conversation with you. And I feel like there's so much we can take away from your teachings. So thank you.
Well, I'm going to correct people. It's not my teachings. It is just the truth. Remember, the rule was heal the people and tell the truth. It's simply the truth. And you will find a million, quote unquote, spiritual leaders that can corroborate with what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not my teachings. I didn't invent them.
True.
I am simply the radio.
The channel.
Playing the
tune. Amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. And I really, really appreciate this opportunity to help people learn more about what I do.
If you enjoyed the episode and would like to help support the show, please follow and subscribe. You can rate and review your feedback on any of our platforms listed in the description. I'd like to recognize our guests who are vulnerable and open to share their life experiences with us. Thank you for showing us we're human. Also, a thank you to our team who worked so hard behind the scenes to make it happen.
Trzcinski, Stephan, Menzel.
The show would be nothing without you. I'm Jennica, host and writer of the show, and you're listening to Multispective.